Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Today is the 33rd Tech Talk.
Yay.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 33 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
amazing.
yes, it is. It's a bit weird, actually, when you think about it. In essence, it's always been like our goal to kind of showcase some of the technologies being used every day and kind of make an example of how it easy is to actually use it. So that's why today we are going to demystify databases a little bit, just a
Yay.
little bit. Yeah. So okay, cool. Um, Hi everyone, welcome. So nice of you to join. We are going to share some screens. We are going to share some resources and help you get on your way on building, setting up a tool of sort that will help you kind of explore and fiddle around on your database. So that's kind of the point. I have shared in the description below. You can tell that there's this link where you can actually go visit the demo for this tool that we are going to use. This tool or service is called Phpmyadmin. So it's a common tool being used for a very long time to kind of add on to the server um, a way to interact graphically with the database. So it kind of helps you not be in that very scary place of a terminal, which can be scary, and kind of helps you get an overview of it. Yeah.
But that's the nice thing about the tools that you use to code. Like often there's a GUI for it that might help you when you're a beginner and you just need to understand what connects to what. Then you can use the GUI. But further down the line, when you code a lot, like the terminal is a really good tool. Learn how to use it because it's gonna help you. But it might be a bit much, or it might be a too steep learning curve in the beginning.
Yeah, it kind of helps when you just see it and you can kind of connect it like it does. Later on, terminal is easier because you have all the commands saved somewhere. Like people don't know that even experienced system admins, programmers, technicians just go and go through the history of their previous commands, and that's why it's easy to do it. So and you get a hang of it a little bit. So, but it's always good to go back to the basics and kind of try things out a little bit. So yeah, we're going to go to our trusty DigitalOcean Cloud. So this is the link for it. So cloud.digitalocean.com. It is a service that is you have to pay for it, so it's not free. It's a publicly available server. You could do this on a local server on your computer, and we will cover that also. But if you can, log on to DigitalOcean, and they have some very affordable servers for you, $4 or $6 a month. You can try them out, try to do something with them, and kind of shut them down after a week. So you're under $1 basically. It's you could give it a go. We will cover the less or no cost variant in future tech talks, right, Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get to it then. I'll share the screen here. Remove this caption. Okay. Let me know if you don't see anything, if something is not right. I'll just go to the first page that you see when you log on to the DigitalOcean. So when you log on to DigitalOcean, sign up. This is the first screen that you will see. It's quite easy to get started. They, DigitalOcean, calls their servers droplets. It's just a marketing name for the server. You go to droplets, so create, click on droplets. Okay.
Click on.
Click on droplets, yeah. And there are different distributions being used in different servers. So they're all based on Unix systems, these. So we have Ubuntu, Fedora, Debian, CentOS, a lot of them, all of them based on Unix. So uh, basically, we're going to go with Ubuntu. That's my preferable distribution, and it's being used a lot in the community. You will find a lot of resources for it, and it's kind of good to go on the path of community accepted technologies. I'm not saying a lot of these distributions are also very much accepted and are valuable to the community, but you will find a lot of resources for these distributions. So we will go, we will not change anything. We will go to Marketplace and type in PHP my admin. Okay, now with a Z. And what this allows us, it's quite helpful with DigitalOcean that it kind of just does the work for you. So you don't have to worry about setting up a server, then installing certain services on it. This is just a one-click installation. When we click on details, you'll see that it will just do everything that is needed to get started. So you will install the Phpmyadmin, it will install the MySQL server, MySQL server. It will install the web server needed to work. So we have Apache, we have different sorts of web servers. It will install PHP. It's also easy to install Python here. You did some work in Python, if I noticed, yesterday.
Yeah.
So it does all of these things for you. So that's why I kind of love it. We can just get to the point.
So basically, it's like an extension. When you create your server, if you go onto Marketplace and you pick Phpmyadmin, it's like an extension that you add on to your server when you're creating it.
Yeah. It's kind of a even when we install the basic Debian server or a basic Ubuntu server, we have to install the database, so MySQL. We have to install PHP. We have to install Apache, so web server. So we have to install all of these services in order for this to work. So it's quite convenient to use this. All right. So we went on the marketplace, typed in PHP my Y, MY, not Z, and we have selected the Phpmyadmin, and we can go on just the most cheapest variant. Like I think, okay, so $4 will not work because of the size needed for it to be installed. So $6.
So Phpmyadmin and like MySQL database, PHP, it takes a bit of space on your server.
Yeah, I would argue that this is enough, actually.
Yeah.
So, but if you were to go and to delete this and just install the server, like just Ubuntu, and select this plan, the cheapest plan, you would be able to install it manually by yourself. It would not give you any trouble. But this is also a little bit of a marketing like gimmick. Like, oh yeah, it cannot. It would fit actually here. You don't need 1 gigabyte of RAM and 25 gigabytes of SSD in order for this to work. So,
but if you're feeling insecure, this is a good way of getting started.
Yes, yeah. That's exactly the point. Yeah. So we have selected the CPU. We can add block storage. So if you need extra terabyte of space, you can add it here quite easily. We will choose the data center region. So Obviously, if you have a client in on the western part of the United States, then you will select San Francisco because it's closer to them. If you have a client in London, UK, then select London. If you have a client in the rest of Europe, perhaps a good option would be Frankfurt. That's what we are going to choose.
Well, what we're choosing now is where our the physical DigitalOcean server is based.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like we don't have to wait for the signal to travel across the ocean. It's right here. It can communicate with our computer faster. Yeah, and I'm not sure. We should check on DigitalOcean being compliant with the EU laws when it's the data center is in Frankfurt. I think also, so that is like
Yeah.
a hidden perk.
Yeah.
They are based in USA, but I'm not sure. There have been some news in Sweden, I think, about using some sort of an alerting system, and they used certain cloud storages that are outside of Sweden, even outside of EU. So that could be an issue, but let's not dive into that now.
There's a lot of rules and laws in the EU, and there's
Yeah.
too much for this TikTok.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. So
So choose a server that's close to you and where you are, and it should be fine.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we are going to type in. We have another way of actually accessing the server. So we need to have some sort of an authentication. So uh, it says here that droplets that use SSH keys have password disabled by default. Why? Because passwords are unsafe for servers. Like whatever password you put in, someone could brute force it, someone could attack it, and kind of get into your server. You really reduce that chance by using SSH keys. But let's not dive into that right now. For you to get started right now, you don't have to worry about security a lot. Nothing bad is going to happen, especially on a test server. You can just fiddle around a little bit. Now we're going to use the password, which is a better alternative, but we will cover the security part in other tech talks. I love how we already secured a bunch of tech talk topics for the future.
Yeah,
Will this
exactly.
be covered in the summer?
I hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, me too. So I'll just type in random root passwords, or it can end in a number or a special character. Okay, I'll add something. All right. So yeah, we will go about. We can skip enabling backups. We can skip monitoring. It has a lot of cool features. Like you can have monitoring enabled. You can watch your server. You can see what happens with the RAM, what happens with CPU. Have you put up enough of it? Do you need to increase it or decrease it, perhaps, or something like that? Backup is a good thing. Like you have a backup every Wednesday, I think, and it's retained for 4 weeks, so you don't have to worry about it. There's a snapshot of the whole server being made. So that's really cool for $1.20 per month. That's not bad to have a backup set up, even though this isn't a very good way of doing it, but at least something is being done.
I guess depending on what kind of project you're doing, you yourself have to decide, do I need a backup or don't I? If you only have, like, I have a portfolio out on my web hotel, I don't need a backup because like, there's no one writing anything on my website. It's just me adding my files, and my files are on GitHub. So I don't need to have a backup on my website. But if you're doing like a client website, or if it's information that's coming from users, it might be a good thing to have a backup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you deciding on what you're going to do. You can
Mm,
create a snapshot. There's also a thing called snapshot in
mm,
DigitalOcean, which makes a clone of your whole server and puts it aside. So
mm,
whatever happens, so I like to do that when I kind of experiment with things.
mm.
I just do a snapshot, a clone of the whole server, It doesn't take a lot, like a minute or two.
Mm.
And then I say, all right, I'll be brave. I'll install that extension. And obviously, I'll break everything. And then I just revert to the old snapshot that I made 15 minutes ago. So you can
Yeah.
be like really brave, or you can have someone fiddle around with it, like one of your colleagues, and you can be like, no worries, if you mess something up, then we'll just revert to the old snapshot. Don't worry. So it's a good tool to be like,
Mm.
relaxed a little bit. Okay. Yeah, we can give a host name, so we can give a name to the server. So this is a very complicated name. I'll just leave the Phpmyadmin part. You can use tags. So when you have multiple droplets, multiple servers running, you can use, like you can see, you can write test, and you can write Phpmyadmin. So you can see the difference among the other servers. Yeah. And let's go create a droplet. So it's running for a bit now. In this process, we will get an IP address. An IP address is a way of server presenting him or herself to the world, itself to the world. And it is a way of anyone be able to kind of reach out to that server. So that's a cool feature. We're waiting for the bit, so it's
It's
installing
always that awkward pause.
yeah. It is like it's doing a lot of things right now. So it's
Yeah.
unpacking the Ubuntu. It's probably using some sort of an image to do all of that, because probably in DigitalOcean it's not like they probably optimize the process, hopefully. But all of this has been now installed in a minute, and we have our IP address here. So what we do, we go to the copy, and we go to our browser and just select any tab. I'll do this. I'll share it with you. This sharing part is always tricky. All right. Okay. So you can see,
Yeah.
we
So
have a message.
you have just entered the IP address in your browser, just like any URL.
Yes. I don't know if I can show that. Yeah, I have to show the whole window.
Yeah.
And I don't want to show my bookmarks.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, so this is the message that you get. So it says, look, you have to turn up the terminal now. The scary part is coming up. So, okay, let's go to the terminal. So right now, I'm going to share my terminal. Yep. Okay, everyone can see it. So what we do is, this is Mac OS. If you're using Windows, there's a tool called Putty. I'll write it in the chat.
All right, I forgot to. I had a workshop about the terminal earlier today, but I forgot about Putty. I only said that it might be called, I think it's called prompt something on one kind of computer, command line on the different. It's often depending on what computer and what version you're using.
Yeah, it's so if you have Windows, I'm not sure about Windows 11 now, but Windows do not have, they have command prompt, but they don't have like the terminal, in the sense that you can access other servers in that way. So you download Putty and just Google it. It's quite easy to, you don't have to even install it. You can just run it as an executable file, exe file. And you will do the same what I'm doing right now here. I'm using Mac OS. So I just wrote terminal in the search, and this came up, the little dark colored icon. You click on it and you get this. Also, if you're using Linux or some sort of other distribution of Linux, then it's quite easy. like you also search terminal, you will get the same thing as in Mac OS. All right, so let's get started. What we write is, oh, okay. What we write is SSH, and I'll write my username, which is root, which is also a really bad practice to name your username root, because everyone names their username root. But let's disregard that for a while. Then we write, so SSH root, so that's our username, which we got from DigitalOcean. We write at, and then we write in the IP address that we got. So mine is, I'll just copy and paste it. Oh, I copy and pasted the whole URL. Okay. So mine is 104.248.26.72. All right, and I click enter. And then I'm getting a question from the server like, who are you? I cannot authenticate. There's no way of me figuring out who you are actually. And it's trying to figure out, are you sure you want to connect to this server? So the computer is asking me. And I say yes or just Y. Oh, type, okay, no, just yes. Okay, and this IP has been added to the list of known hosts to my computer. So it's trust. It has given it trust. Let's use the password. So this is the time when you type in your password that you typed into the DigitalOcean. Well, let me just paste it. Right, and I pressed enter. Okay. So this is the welcome screen you get from the DigitalOcean server that we just ran that has Phpmyadmin installed on it already. So it says here, welcome to DigitalOcean, one-click MySQL Phpmyadmin droplet. The firewall is already enabled. All ports are blocked except 22, 80, 3, etc. So the only ones that you need. So it has already secured the server for us a lot. So it says that in the web browser, you can view the Phpmyadmin by typing in the IP address and then adding a slash and Phpmyadmin. You will get something. You will get a login. And very useful for us right now here is that we have gotten the username and the password for the Phpmyadmin because we didn't know that. We will go now to I will copy this.
But to separate things, what you did now in the terminal is that you log on to the server that you have created on DigitalOcean or your droplet, server droplet. And then your server is giving you information. How can I access my database? Oh, we have set it up for you. Go to this link, use this username and password, and you're in your database. So it's
exactly
2 different things, but you get to access them both via the server.
Yeah, it's so the DigitalOcean team said, all right, we will make the user log on via terminal. And then we will enable the Phpmyadmin. So they did that on purpose. So you have to log on to the terminal, and then we will let the Phpmyadmin have a log on screen. So now if we go to the IP address provided, and we click and we write in, so just a sec. I'm using multiple keyboards here, so I'm always looking for a slash. Is it going to be just
keyboard wizard?
Yes.
It's always hard doing something and then explaining it and switching screen. It's a lot going on.
Yes, it is. All right, let me share. So this is we're back to that screen. You don't see me typing it in above, but I typed in the IP address. So /phpmyadmin, and now I'm going to click enter, press enter.
So that's
And
your URL for your database.
that's the URL, that's the IP address of the server we just started on DigitalOcean. And in order for us to access the Phpmyadmin, which is a tool that will enable us to talk to MySQL, to the database, uh, this is the way we log on to it. So now we have the welcome screen from Phpmyadmin, and we, if you remember on the terminal part, we got the username and we got the password. So the password is super long. So I'm just going to type in admin here, and let me just zoom in a little bit. And yeah, I'll type in the admin here and I'll paste the password. I think it was huge. Yeah. So, okay, I won't save this, but this is the Phpmyadmin. So at our left-hand side, we have already some tables. We have some actually databases here with some tables. We can already see because this server cannot run without, so it's not able to run without a database already set up. So Phpmyadmin is an application, and applications need databases in order to run, at least at this stage of our learning process. So this is somewhat of a requirement. So we see the database that is needed for Phpmyadmin to run. We have a lot of databases here. So it's kind of important to point out that even though MySQL, for example, is a database, you can create multiple smaller databases inside of it. Like you can have different types of, you can have, for example, let's go about an example right now. So we have here, we click on databases and we now see we have a lot of databases within this system, within MySQL. So we can have our own database here. So I already written here a test, but let's do that. And we can talk about Unicode, and we can talk about what is the right type to use. But let's skip that for now. I'll just use this.
Do you use the one that was default?
You can use the one that is default also. Yeah, you can. For this testing purposes, yes, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have kind of an outlook on the databases already here. And for example, we want to create a very rudimentary database by ourselves. So we are getting really deep into it right away. Okay, so you just go to databases here. Let me repeat the steps a little bit. So server, localhost here, databases. You just type in the database name that you want, and you click create. So it immediately comes to that part where it says there are no tables found in the database. So we can start creating tables. We write in contacts, and we create, and we put up 2 columns. Because we are in contacts, we are going to have a name and a surname, 2 columns on. Let's keep it very simple. And we click go. And now it says, all right, how do you want these columns to look like? Okay, we are already quite deep into databases. So we say, all right, it's quite simple. We want name here and we want surname here. And we want that to be text. I don't know. Seems like text is a good choice, right? We have date. That doesn't seem right. Int. Oh, it says here you get help. It says, I don't know if it's visible on the, yeah, it isn't.
It isn't, but you have a lot of different options that are database types. Do you say no data types? You say integer, date, text. Is it a
exactly.
string? Then it's a text. Yeah.
And you can like go into that direction and do a lot of things because
Mm.
a lot of data being pushed into databases is actually different, and we want it to be different. Like we have different variations of it, and but now we want to keep it simple. Like we have text and text. All right. Let's see if we can get by, but not by not defining the length or the values or etc. All right, we will just go and click save. Let's see what happens. Okay, we got off easy. We got the database called test, and we have table called contacts. And yeah, so now we can insert things in it. So sounds kind of logical. So we want to insert data into the SQL database.
I think that's when you're saying that, I think it's also worth mentioning, like, why do I need a database for my website?
Hmm.
If I ask you that, what would you say? Why are we
Uh,
doing this?
so the kind of the short answer is there's divide between there is a divide in the way that the data and communication kind of data flows between different segments of a website.
Mm.
So when a person logs on or just visits a website, then they see something is presented on the screen. And in order for those tables to be filled out, the Python, the backend of the code, the Python that you had written a couple of days ago, asks, "Hey, someone has visited." A service lets it know that someone has visited the web page, and we have to give out something to that
Mm.
person. Then it asks, "What can I give?" And the text, like an article being written, is being held in the database. So the database has the actual characters, actual text saved. Like when you log on and you write a comment below some sort of an article, then what you are doing is actually inputting and inserting new data into the database. And you're telling the front end part, like the part that you see on the screen, you're telling it that you want to have that piece of information, that text, be saved into the database.
Mm.
So it's multi-layered. So every website has multiple layers that communicate with each other. So database is one of the important parts because it kind of holds all of it together. If we were to have a static website where you cannot put in a comment, then we don't need a database, because I come up and just use, I don't know, a terminal, or if you know what an FTP is, a file transferring protocol like FileZilla, for example, you just log on to the server and you just go ahead and type directly in the HTML, like, "Hello, this is my web server," like we did in the end of 90s.
Mm.
Like, um, it's just like very static. You cannot change anything. So there's no interaction with the user. There's only read. You can only read the website. You cannot leave a comment on it.
That's a
So
really good way of explaining it.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
interaction, the dynamic. So
Yeah.
we
So,
had, yeah.
so basically, if I were to do a blog, the choices I have is to do a static blog. I can do it in HTML, CSS, PHP, Python, whatever I choose. And I can just upload it to my server and people can go on, look and read it. But it's all static, it's all hard coded. Or I could do a blog with the database and then the information is stored somewhere else on a server. And my website goes to that database and picks that information depending on what it is. So it can have the title, the date I wrote the blog post,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can have like, let's go a step further. Like for example, you're banned on that you're banned on that blog,
Yeah.
and you type in your username, and you type in your comment, and when you click submit, it says like the username is being checked in the tables called blocked, and it says, oh, okay, Rene B is blocked on a block list, and if Rene is on a block list, then his submission is denied. Like he cannot write anything in the database, or we will save what he has written,
Mm.
but not publish it
Mm.
because it's something else. I'm not sure. It's up for a review.
Mm.
Like we can put like we don't want to have people just comment. We want to review it. So then it's the email is generated to Carolina, and then she sees the content and clicks yes.
Mm.
So all of that is like multi-layered interaction between certain parts of the website and between us as a user, programmers, developers, etc. So it's quite when you put in the database, it gets a little bit complicated, but we shouldn't be scared of it. Like it helps us actually to build better sites. Yeah. So let's insert. Let's do the comment part. Well, it's not like the comments, but like example, if we want to comment on a certain website, we should put in
Yeah.
our name and surname. So let's pretend that that is the case. So, all right. Let me just type in Rene here, and I'll type in my surname here,
Mm.
and just click go and see what happens. Okay, what I'm being suggested here is so it has created the SQL command for me. So as you can see, so it has written the all right. So you want to insert into table named contacts. You want to insert into that database named contacts. You want to insert into the tables name and surname, the values of Rene, and the value of Bracus. So you want to insert those things, right? So I can. This is a good way to learn because I used a very graphical GUI system to just write in, oh, name, okay, Rene, okay, surname, okay, my surname, and then I got this. So it's very cool. You can like go about and click on this and copy it and place it in a notepad or something. Like you can start learning and you can have a little comment. This came up when I wanted to do this and this. So this is like a really cool tool to learn also. But
So
yeah,
this is what if you were doing this in the terminal and doing things with your database directly in the terminal, this is what you had to write to manipulate the data. Now you're doing it with clicking on a website, and I could do this in the terminal with the same database with commands.
yes, exactly.
It's
It's
really cool. You get to
and
learn how to do it.
exactly. It's cool because it kind of helps you later on. You will be a perfectionist and you will say, oh, we won't install Phpmyadmin because it takes up resources. I'll do it too. Who installs that? But let's get you to that level. Like it's a progress. It's a journey. Okay, so the interface here is a bit weird, but like if we go down, go, I think it's not visible, or it is. If you go down, then you see go here. It's a bit weird, but you go scroll down and you click go, and it has notified us that one row is inserted. Uh, it has let us know how long the query has lasted. It took nothing, like milliseconds, and it has inserted values of Rene into name and Bracus into surname. So cool. So the same would have happened if we made a form, each HTML form on the website saying, type in your data, type in your contact information, and say, just put a label name and then a form where you can write in something, and surname, you can write in something. And if someone clicked submit, actually, after the code runs it, this would happen also. So this would be a part of the code, like insert into contacts, then variable this, variable that, values into this and that. So yeah, not to complicate things, but that would happen also.
But it's
So
really good explaining what's going on and how do you do that in your code. But this is the
yeah,
way of doing it. But instead of Renee and brackets, you have a lot of Renee brackets commenting. Then you
yeah,
can have variables.
it kind of helps you get the picture a little bit.
Yeah.
So um, so we can have, let's do this. Let's go to, so we when we go to test, so we click on the left hand side, we have the test database. The test database has the contacts table, and it has the columns. Okay, new, we should remove new, but we have columns name and surname. So all right, so let's take a look at the, okay.
For me, it often helps. I said that when Johannes was showing databases in the terminal as well. For me, it often helps to think about the database as like an Excel document. Right? You have columns and you have rows and you have data in that, and you can do things with that data. And that's basically what you're showing here as well, that you have the test database, you have columns, you have name, surname.
Yes, it's it is exactly that. Before, like 20-25 years ago, there was this and there still is this program called Access in Microsoft Office package. So it will be quite, it's sometimes in my high school, I learned databases from that program. But it was quite useful actually, because it used a very graphical user interface, and basically tables to build databases. Like you drag
Mm.
them, you typed in, and it kind of aggregated all together, all the data. So that was also quite useful to use. There are a lot of different tools out there also that help you connect to the database and use it effectively. I'll do my best and put up a comment on some of the resources that could be used in that way. Obviously, not everyone uses just a terminal to dig through the database. That's quite inefficient. You have a lot of tools that do that for you, and but this is a good way of wrapping your head around it. So yeah, uh, us being able to see everything within a certain table is within PHP, Phpmyadmin. So we go to the database that we want to go to, like database test, and then we click browse. And actually, when we click browse, it initiated a SQL query, which is goes like this: like select asterisk in SQL language means all, everything. So select everything from the table called contacts. And it did that. So it gave the name and the surname. So I'm not sure why to think, perhaps I ran it 2 times when I did the example. But so we have the, okay, so these are the names. So this is the name. So this could be a list of contacts for important things. And this
But
is a
what
way of you accessing it. Sorry.
What you were explaining now, SQL is the name of the language that you write instructions for MySQL databases, or how do you explain?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so it's a command language like any other. You have it has its rules, and you kind of get the hang of it after using it. So we can see that select means like pull out data out of the database. Insert means inserting the data into the database. So if you remember, we used insert into, and then we said this table, and then we opened up the brackets and had written in a certain format what exactly columns we want to populate. And then we use another bracket to say what data we want to put into those columns. So I know it seems a bit scary, but it's really not. It's really not. And I kind of want you to, everyone that's kind of watching this, I want you to start with a very live server like DigitalOcean. It's good to have, if you have a lot of resources, it doesn't have to be DigitalOcean, but start with a live server because it gives you really the feel of being out there in the wild. And try to build the most basic contact form you can. Like the website is very broken. It doesn't have to have anything special. Just visit when someone visits that IP address, then it comes to that contact form where it says type in your name, username, and the note what you want to leave for me, something like that. And that's pretty much, and you'll be surprised if you leave it out in the wild. You'll be surprised how much bots, which are automatic algorithms, programs that kind of scan through the web and look and see if they can write something anywhere. So kind of a spam bot that will write anything in there. And you can play around with it. There's no harm with it. Nothing bad can happen. Like the worst thing that could happen is you just destroying that server and starting it anew. But you have some sort of a snapshot already, and it's not that big of a deal to run it again. So be brave. That's what I want to say. Like, yeah, cool. I think that we covered the gist of it. I'm sure we didn't cover everything,
No, but I
but
think it's a good place to start. What is Phpmyadmin? How do I set it up on a server? How do I use it? Because it is honestly the first time I saw that website, I was like, is this like spam virus? Why does it look like it's from the 90s? But it is. It's not a good design, perhaps, but it works.
a lot of things like a lot of good services and a lot of open source projects look like that.
Yeah.
They're super useful.
Yeah.
I'll leave the so a good piece of information and good news is you don't have to do anything that we have done here. You don't have to go run a server. You don't have to install Phpmyadmin using DigitalOcean. Just go on this. Oh, I'll share it again. Just go on this website. It has already live. It's in the chat, so you can click it. But you write in demo.phpadmin.net. Phpmyadmin, sorry, .net, and then you will see the Phpmyadmin dashboard that we just visited on our server, and you can play around with it. It's publicly available, and you can see that a lot of people have created a lot of tables, a lot of databases on the left side. So you'll see that people have experimented and tried to do something. So be brave, and you don't have to start a server in order to kind of explore the databases. You can go here. But in order for you to kind of do something about it and be able to fiddle around on your own server, you can follow this tutorial that we made. Yeah.
And I think we will also on YouTube, we will also comment with different GUI options for manipulating databases. I know
Yes.
there's some program I have somewhere that
Yeah,
I've used like once.
there are a lot of them, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's a cool thing to have.
yeah.
Cool. Hope everyone learned something. If you have some questions, like we're here, you can reach out to Carolina or to me, or type in something in a comment or whatever,
You
so
can
we can talk.
also join our Discord. We have a
Yeah,
Discord server that you can join and talk code without us
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to.
That's super cool to have. I have the link here, and I'll share it in the chat again. So you also have that resource.
Nice.
Okay, here you go. So I think the chat option is available on YouTube. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
if you feel like it, like type in this code after invite, and you'll get there. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
so much.
everyone. Yeah, thank you for inviting me and having the chance to talk a little bit about these things. I always love when people get started because the first couple of weeks are the hardest, and later on you feel like as though you can get places and you can do things with the learnings you made.
Exciting.
Yeah. Okay. We're signing out then.
We are. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.